Hello, viewer. Welcome to today's episode of Women's View. I'm your host, I'm Remy, and it is a great pleasure to have you with us today. Remember that we are on YouTube, GPS TV Africa. We're also on Facebook, live on Facebook. So please send in your comments, your questions. And if you want to send us an SMS, the number to use is 21144. So it is October, and time is flying. Time is always on the move. And October is the Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So here at GBS, we are going to be focusing a lot on cancer and just looking at it from different angles and perspectives. And this morning, I'm joined in studio online by some two lovely ladies, and I want to give them a chance to introduce themselves. And I'll start with Edith. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Edith Bogwa, a wife and a mother of 3, and I live in Nyeri. Thank you.
Welcome to the show, Edith. One thing I like about all this online business is that it is very possible to have guests from all over the country, all over Africa. And so technology is really working for us. Welcome to the show, Edith. We also have another guest. Karibu sana, Brenda.
Asante sana for hosting me. My name is Brenda Kithaka. I'm a health advocate, having worked in the advocacy space for over 8 years now in cervical cancer prevention. But this year, I've also started focusing on the larger cancer control programming, where we are talking about also survivorship as an area of focus in Africa. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Brenda. It is so good to have you on the show. So basically, one of the things that I know you have done recently, Brenda,
yes,
that is a huge accomplishment, is that you climbed Mount Kenya. I want you to tell us a little bit about that climb, who you climbed with, why you were climbing, and whether you were able to summit. What are the views like up there?
Oh, wow. Where to start? The journey to climb Mount Kenya started all the way in January of this year. And we started preparing with cancer survivors. We were a team of 15 that climbed the mountain, supported by a team of 30 caregivers, porters, cooks, support. The support team was 30, we were 15 of us. Out of that, I had 11 cancer survivors, and myself as a caregiver, and a crew of 3 that were recording the journey for us. Now, why we climbed? Last year, I lost a dear friend of mine to cancer, and the year before that, I had lost my grandfather to cancer. And that was painful, because losing 2 people in succession that you love dearly, it took me on a journey of reflection. Having worked in advocacy for over 8 years, and I was talking prevention and early detection. I was talking people taking choices to go and get screened early so that they can be treated early. I had not looked at the other angle of, you have finished with the cancer journey, you have recovered, or you're in remission, and then life has to go back to what people call normal. And watching my grandfather, watching my friend Rose, I realized it was a huge gap in Africa, that we don't focus on survivorship. We don't focus as much on the quality of life after, and especially how they can be able to manage the side effects, after effects of treatment, both emotional, physical, spiritual, as well as financial. And so the journey for Kilele, which is now the foundation that we started the climb with, was for us to look at optimal health for cancer survivors. After you've gone through the treatment, after everybody has told you you're fine now, go on and live, how do you live a quality life? How do you ensure that your physical wellness supports your mental wellness, supports your capacity to be able to live and live fully and purposefully? That was the journey. And so we climbed last week but one up the mountain. We went scared, afraid, but aware that we were going to conquer this mountain, because cancer is yet another journey that people go through and they conquer. And so for us, the journey up the mountain was yet another mountain that we are attempting. 8 of us submitted. And the other 7 reached the highest point before the summit, which is what is called the Shipton's Camp, and even went about 2 kilometers up the summit, Point Lenana, before some of them were not able to go because of challenges either with the body or also challenges with altitude sickness, and they had to go back to Shiptons. But all of us reached our Kilele. It was exciting.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is so, so amazing.
Thank
And climbing Mount Kenya is challenging, but climbing Mount Kenya when you had cancer or you have cancer, that is double challenging. And so to be able to even accept that challenge and to be able to summit to reach your Kilele, that is so, so inspiring. So kudos to your team.
Thank you.
I mean, as we go on, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about it. But now I'd like to invite Edith. Edith, you say that you're a wife and you're a mom of 3, and you are a cancer survivor. I'd like you to take us a little bit through your journey. I know it's a very long journey, but we're going to try and keep it brief. But number one, we celebrate you because you have gone through a huge challenge with cancer and you have overcome. Maybe you can start us off with how did you come to realize that you had leukemia? All right, as we wait for Edith to join, maybe we can discuss, Benda, just a little bit. Out of the 15 people who are climbing, how many had cancer or have survived cancer? And how many
11.
were there for support?
11. And out
11.
of that 11, we had different types of cancer represented, cancer survivorship represented. We had breast cancer, we had cervical cancer, we had colorectal, and also colon and rectum. We also had anal cancer, one of the rare cancers that's rarely ever talked about. We also had someone who has gone through the journey of pancreatic cancer, and she survived for over 9 years, which again is commendable because pancreatic cancer is one of the cancers that's hardest to diagnose, hardest to treat, and yet she survived 9 years. And so these women, amazing women, taught me so much about resilience, about overcoming the challenges of cancer survivorship and even cancer treatment, and also taking life purposefully, taking life deliberately, making choices deliberately. It was a journey for me of, it's not just about the cancer, it's about how do you live deliberately after a cancer diagnosis.
Exactly.
Yes.
And you know what? One of the things that I also wanted us to talk about, Edith has dropped, but she's going to be joining us shortly. Edith is a leukemia cancer survivor. And so we really want to hear her side of the story because it makes a big difference when you actually are talking to somebody who has walked this journey. So when it comes to cancer survivorship, something that you are very, very intentional and focused on, I want you to think about the rates, the cancer survivor rates. But I see Edith is back. Edith, welcome. And I wanted you to share, once you unmute yourself, I'd like you to share about your journey, starting from the beginning. How did you discover that you had leukemia? Edith, karibu sana.
Santi. It was in the year 2015, and I started feeling dizziness most of the time. Sometimes I could have blackout, but the most thing that made me to go to hospital was something swelling on my left side, just below the ribs. And when I went to hospital, the doctor told me to do blood test. After the blood test, he told me that I would go for a scan to see what is swelling on my right side. The amazing thing or the shocking thing was the spleen was double size. There's an organ called the spleen on the left side. That's when he told me to go for another test. And about an hour, the test was out. But the blood sample was so bad. The cells were so aggressive. And that's when that clinic officer told me, we should wait for the pathologist. He was not able to read those cells results. So I was given about a week for the pathologist to come. And when he came, that's when he told me that I have leukemia. Although I was sent to do more other tests at Kenyatta, but all the results were the same. I had blood cancer.
Edith, that was very, very shocking. I mean, here you are experiencing some symptoms like dizziness, blackouts. Maybe you thought that maybe it was something mild, only to go and discover that you had blood cancer or leukemia. So, how did you receive that news, and how were you able to accept and just move on? And even your family, how did you break the news to them? I can imagine that was a very difficult period in your life.
It was very shocking to me. At first, I saw death. And especially to know that it's blood cancer, I assumed that now my whole body, I have cancer. It was so hard for me and my family. And sometimes I could just go blackout. I could not talk, I could not eat. It was so hard for me. So I remember my husband stood with me so much, and he's the one who broke the news to my family members. To me, I was telling them I want to die because I used to hear that cancer is death. And it's cancer, you know, when somebody tells you have cancer, it's very hard for you to understand. So I used to sometimes keep quiet for a whole day. I used to cry the whole day. Bearing in mind I have little children. It was so hard for me, so hard for me. But after counseling, after my family studying with me, I came to understand that I can still survive the cancer.
Wow. Yes. And a big shout out to your husband, wherever he is. I'm sure he's watching you. Thank you so much for supporting your spouse, because one of the things that is usually not 100% sure is whether or not your spouse and your family will support you, because it's usually such a difficult journey, and you find that sometimes some people are not able to offer the support that is required. So I just want to say a special thank you and a special shout out to your husband, to your family, for standing together with you, because I know you needed that support, especially when you have little children. The thoughts that come to your mind, you know, of death and what will happen in their lives are they're so major. So having somebody to go to walk the journey with, I'm sure made a huge, huge difference for you. I also want you to tell us a little bit about the diagnosis. For you, it seemed that it took a very short time to diagnose that you had cancer. What stage was it?
Yes.
I don't know whether blood
phase
cancer.
one.
It was stage
Phase
one.
one.
Phase one. Wow, that is great, because I know one thing I know about cancer is that early detection makes all the difference. So if it's diagnosed when it's stage one or stage two, it really makes a difference in terms of the process of being able to deal with it. So when I listened to you, you didn't really suffer very much to figure out what the problem was. It's like you went to hospital and they were in no time they knew it was cancer. So the diagnostic process for you was quite fast.
Yes. Yeah, because you know, when the spleen was swelling, my stomach was so big. Yeah, and people were saying that I am pregnant. So when I went to hospital, it was easy to detect because they have to do more research on that. So it didn't took me too long to know.
That is good, because one of the things that I hear a lot of Kenyans complaining about is that sometimes it takes so long for the doctors to diagnose the cancer. But I also congratulate you, Edith, because, you know, a big stomach is something that people tend to overlook. You know, people just say, nimekuwa nikikula sana, or maybe I've added weight. But I'm so grateful that you are able to take that step and go and see a doctor. And I just want to put it out there that when you notice anything amiss with your body, this is now to my viewers, please always consider going to the hospital for a checkup, because early detection makes a huge, huge difference in a lot of diseases, not just in cancer. So I'm glad that, you know, you saw your stomach was big and people were asking you if you're pregnant. Number one, you didn't get upset, but you actually went to the doctor, and through that, they were able to diagnose. So another thing I wanted to take us through is the treatment process and how that like affected, because now here you are already just absorbing the news, accepting was taking long, but somehow you are able to communicate to your husband, who communicated to your family. Sometimes you would not want to eat, sometimes you would not want to talk, sometimes you would cry all day. So now when the treatment started, how was the treatment journey for you?
Okay. When the pathologist came here in Nyeri, he sent me to Kenyatta Hospital. And remember, this time was shedding a lot of weight. In fact, I was 60, and in span of 2 weeks, I was 47. Wow. So I was shedding a lot of weight. So when I went to Kenyatta, I met a very good professor there, and he sent me to Nairobi Hospital. There I was booked for clinics, and immediately I started the medication. My chemo was through medication, not that one of the line. I used to take tablets. Yes. So it was immediate treatment, yeah.
All right. So for you, treatment was, I know that chemo can be either through a tablet or it can be through the drip. So for you, it was through a tablet. How many rounds of chemo did you have to go through?
I used to take daily basis.
Every day you have to take a...
Yeah, in the evening.
Okay. And what were the side effects of this chemotherapy medication for you? I mean, of course, it was good because it was killing the cancer cells in your blood, which is what it's meant to do. Yes. But other than that, like, did you have any other side effects that were difficult to deal with?
Very harsh one. They were very harsh for me because even before I took them, the doctor told me I was to be brown. My color changed, really changed. And I became so bright. Oh. And my ribs were fading. And I had joint pain. I couldn't move. They were so painful for me to move. Most of the time, I could just sleep on the bed. So most people are asking, what did you use to bleach yourself? People thought I was bleaching my color. So it was very harsh for me. And it was very painful. My joints were paining around, paining.
Oh my, yeah. And even when you take like medicine for pain, it doesn't help. The pain is beyond painkillers.
It was not helping a lot.
Okay.
It took me like 3 months for the pain to ease.
So you were in pain, serious pain every day for 3 months?
Serious pain, joint pain. Yeah, I couldn't move.
Oh my God. Of course, this disrupted everything in your life. I mean, your family, your work.
Yeah. And I had you know, my kid was just 2 years old. Okay. So you can imagine the pain, and here's the baby.
And you know, at that age, the baby requires a lot of attention. They want you to carry them. They want you to feed them. You know, they want you to follow them everywhere around the house as they pick and drop everything. You know how a 2-year-old can be. And here is mommy. Oh my, wow. I'm sure it was very difficult, very difficult.
It was very hard for me, yeah.
What about the children who are a little bit older?
He was only 5 years old.
Okay.
I had 2 by that time, yeah. That time I had 2. 5 years and 2 years.
Okay, so yeah, they were still pretty young, because even a 5-year-old, they're not even understanding what the problem is. They were just wondering, what is happening to our mommy? She doesn't talk. She doesn't lift us anymore. You know, I'm sure it was difficult for the children to understand.
Yes. It was very hard. It was very hard for them and also for me, because I didn't want to show them that I have an issue, but here the pain is too much and the situation is so real for you. So I was trying to balance, but most of them I couldn't. I was just telling them all is okay, but they could see I'm not okay. So it was very hard for me, very hard.
Yeah, I can imagine that, you know, because you also don't want to overburden the children. So anyway, that was that. The good thing is what we're talking about is past tense. I'm so happy about that. It's not what you're going through right now, it's what you went through. So for 3 months, the pain was intense. And then sometimes people are so insensitive without knowing. They're thinking that you're bleaching yourself. They don't know that you're dealing with cancer. But it's just ignorance. So okay, after your treatment, did you after 3 months your pain ended? Does that mean that you
Yeah,
stopped taking the medicine?
it was not so bad by that time, but I used to continue with the medication daily.
Okay. And then after that, did you have to go test? At what point did you now realize that the treatment had been successful?
Come again. Come again.
I'm saying, so after how long did you need to take the medication for?
It was lifetime. The doctor told me it's lifetime.
Oh, so even up to now you still take some medicine just to keep it down.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So another thing that I wanted you to tell us is when it comes to the cost of treatment, and when I say cost, I don't just mean the doctors and also the drugs, even your life, because you had to bring a lot of people around you to help you. What can you say about the cost of treatment? Is it a disease that people can be able to afford to treat?
So this is Benda. I think our other guest Edith may have dropped off, and
Okay.
I want to touch on a few other things that she's raised before we get to the cost of treatment. On diagnosis, what Edith has spoken into was an easy journey for her for diagnosis because she was self-aware. She noticed the body changes early, and she was able to get to a facility as quickly as possible to get screened and tested. For other cancers and for other cancer patients, unfortunately, it's never that easy. For example, cancer is not one disease. So no two types of cancers present with the same exact signs and symptoms. And not two people will present the same way. Someone may be listening to us right now and thinking, my stomach is swelling. It could be that I have leukemia. It could be something totally different, but your body is reacting differently. And so it's important that people are aware that different types of cancers have different types of signs and symptoms. And for those signs and symptoms, the critical thing is self-awareness so that everybody knows themselves what is your normal, what is not normal. The day you notice what is not normal, you're able to seek medical attention as quickly as possible. The second thing, attitude and lifestyle of patients. I bet Edith, the reason why she and her family were able to very quickly get the diagnosis that they did was that the moment they were told we need another test and it needs to be sent to Nairobi by the pathologist, they did not wait. Two things come to mind for that. One, they had the resources that were available for them to go directly to get screened and for the results to come back so quickly. Some people don't have that kind of resources and they have to wait for a long period of time to seek the money that's required for them to get tested. Others, the fear paralyzes. So she talked of the fear that she felt like, oh my God, this could be death, and I'm waiting, but she did not let that paralyze her. She went ahead and got treated as early as possible. Some people get a cancer diagnosis or they get suspicious for cancer and they disappear. And they will come back again another time in 3 years when the cancer has gone so deep into the body, when the staging is no longer stage 1, but it's stage 3. And that's important for your viewers to be able to understand, Anne, that early diagnosis has to be coupled with timely treatment. And the other thing is the technologies that we have. Regrettably, only 2 national cancer centers right now are able to offer comprehensive cancer screening and cancer treatment. That is Kenyatta National Hospital, Kenyatta National Referral Hospital, and also the Kenyatta University Teaching and Training Referral and Research Hospital, KUTRRH. And those 2 centers are serving the country, across the country. We have other laboratories, we have other private hospitals that are able to carry out these diagnostics as well. Critical is how is the sample being referred so that it can be tested and so that the person can get a proper diagnosis. Unfortunately, Anne, some patients have to travel themselves. as the person to come to the facility so that the sample can be tested. And then they have to go back to the village and wait for the results and come back again to get the results and the diagnosis. And that acts as a barrier towards spending on cancer, which is why it's a policy issue that the government ought to be able to decentralize cancer treatment. It shouldn't just be in Nairobi or Eldoret. It should be across the country that people can be able to reach facilities that can offer comprehensive cancer care in the country. Now, you also talked about how she was overcoming her challenging journey towards treatment, and cost is one of the things that you asked about. Cost of cancer comes in many ways. There is the cost of treatment, medical. There is the cost of diagnostics, the tests that have to be continuously carried out so that we can be able to confirm the diagnosis, to confirm the treatment options, to confirm the blood and how the person is reacting to the treatment. There is cost also of the management of the disease itself. For example, someone who is on a cancer treatment has a requirement for diet to be able to build the immunity and also boost it, and also build blood supply, replenish the blood white platelets because of the effects of the cancer. So there is a lot of dietary requirements. This person may require some supplements, may require other therapeutic treatments so that they can manage and cope with the cancer diagnosis, the cancer treatment. We are operating in a community, so this person is not alone. They also have to think about, when I come to Nairobi for treatment, for example, where will I be staying? With whom? It could be a community member, or it could be that they have to rent a place to stay. That's an extra cost. There is the cost of transport. And all these things act as a barrier. So as much as NHIF covers a bit of the cancer treatment, there is a lot of other barriers to treatment that are not taken care of. And that's yet another policy issue that needs to be addressed in Kenya and in Africa, that we provide for cancer control and management across the continuum. Not just about diagnostics, not about screening, but also across the continuum, that we have a major understanding of what are the barriers that are preventing our patients from being discovered early and they can be treated. And lastly, on the same in terms of cost, when you talk about signs and symptoms, we are quick to blame our communities that they don't know. But guess what? You don't know what you don't know. You can only know that I don't know if somebody highlights for you, educates you, teaches you. Let's take COVID-19 as an example.
Brenda, allow me to interrupt you briefly. We'll take a short break, but we'll be right back after the break. Welcome back, viewer. Today we're talking about cancer survivorship. It is October. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I've got with me in studio two guests who are really, really highlighting a lot of concerns and a lot of challenges, as well as a lot of successes when it comes to the cancer journey. So keep it here. Remember that you can send in your questions on YouTube, on Facebook. The handle is GBS TV Africa. And also, if you want to send us an SMS, the number to use is 21144. So Edith, we continue with your journey. You mentioned that, yes, your cancer has gone into remission and you do have to take a pill a day for the rest of your life. But I wanted to just talk a little bit more about life after treatment, after the severe, intense treatment, the chemotherapy. How long did your chemotherapy take? You mentioned that for 3 months you were in severe pain. After 3 months, was that the end of it, or now you went into something else? Because I want to ask, for example, did you have hair loss? You mentioned you had a lot of joint pain. How did you go through all those challenges that come when you have cancer?
But only the pain I had. To me, I didn't have any other side effect.
Okay. And that's basically what Benda is trying to say, that the way cancer presents is very different for different people. So no one person goes through cancer, even if it's cancer of the same organ, in the same way, because our bodies are so unique, our bodies are so different. So for you, the major issue you had to deal with was pain. And pain is quite a debilitating thing. So now that how did you, after treatment, at what point did you now know that your cancer was in remission, that you had overcome it now?
Okay, I used to go for clinics, and that's when after doing the blood sample, that's when we realized it. Yes.
How did you receive the news when you had it?
I was so happy. I was so happy because now I knew that I'm surviving it. Yes.
I know. I mean, that is something that you didn't even imagine you would have to go through in your life.
Yeah.
But now you're able to look back and look at a mountain that you climbed and a mountain that you were able to overcome. So how is your life after? Can you when you look at your life before you had cancer and your life after you have overcome cancer, are there certain things that have changed?
Really? What I did, I loved cancer. I rubbed it that time because I knew I came to imagine that this is a scar, and when you are given a scar, you have to love it. And especially if you have a scar somewhere, like on your face, for you to survive or you to have a happy life, you have to love that scar. So to me, I imagine this is a scar. I have to love it for me to live. You see. Yeah. So after maybe 2 years, 3 years, I didn't have that worry in me again. Mm-hmm. I embrace it for me to survive. And through that was the best chemotherapy I did. Loving it and embracing it. So to me, it was not about that anymore. Most people die or most people live that lonely life because of having that in mind. Cancer is death. For me, I changed it. I loved it. And that's how I made it in life. Yeah.
Wow. That is a very strong mindset. And that is a very major change of perspective. And that is very powerful, because those are the things that also are able to make a huge difference in your life. And I want to bring in Benda a little. Benda, I want you to share with us, what can you say about the power of the mind to beat cancer? You have seen a lot of people who have got it and who have survived it. When it comes to the mental capacity of this patient, is it the same, or is the mindset a major game changer in this story?
So when we speak mindset, I mentioned that when we were preparing for the Kilele journey, for us to climb Mount Kenya, there were 4 pillars we were looking at. And the first one is the physical fitness. Even I think it's St. Augustine said, a healthy mind in a healthy body. Now, when it comes to a cancer diagnosis, already the body is telling you I'm hurting. So you can imagine what it does to the mental wellness of the person. There is a lot of fear. There is the fear of death, the fear of dying. There is the fear of stigma. What people will say, what will people think about me? There is the fear of welfare, the fear of what will happen to my children. Edith talked about it. Her children were young. And at that time, she's thinking, who will be taking care of these children? The financials, how will I afford this? Some people have been taken to poverty because of cancer diagnosis. And of course, the social structures that we have for support systems. And so when you think about cancer and the mental resilience or the mental wellness, it's not a given that everybody will go through trauma. It's not a given that everybody will come out all chappy and brilliant and bright and laughing about it. People react differently. What we can do as society is create structures to help build resilience. So that, one, we change the mindset of cancer is a death sentence. I have seen it. Many of the women we climbed with were saying, my husband left, or my family chased me away, or all my friends ran away from me, or I lost everything that I owned. Somebody conned me. And when you think about that, we have to think this is someone who is going through already a very tough journey, and the social structure she had as a support system is abandoning them. How well will this person be mentally? Our job is to build that resilience and to help them with mindfulness, how to talk to someone. You know, I've seen people who, when they hear you have cancer, and they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You know, already that sends somebody on a cliff, like she thinks I'm dying, he thinks I'm dying, yeah? Or, oh my God, I can't identify with that, but seriously, you need to seek help. They're already doing the best they can. Stop judging. Let's help them acclimatize to the idea this is not normal. And so the support systems that we put in place is very important. I am a very big advocate for policy changes. And I'll tell you, policy change towards mental wellness when it comes to a cancer diagnosis is critical, both for the patient, the caregivers and the family around them, as well as the medical fraternity. You can imagine a doctor who sits for 8 hours, 12 hours, seeing patients, one patient after another, all of them with a late diagnosis. How does that doctor go home feeling? Think of the patient who was seated in that queue. They came in at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they're waiting in a line that's moving and moving and moving and moving. They'll be seen at midday, and they are watching other patients who have maybe physical signs of the cancer, a swelling in the eye, a swelling in the breast, a wound. And this is someone who is sitting there waiting for their diagnosis. Can you imagine the emotional, psychological effects of that on the person? So when we talk mental resilience, when we talk mental wellness, there is the social stigma, there is the systemic challenges that need to be addressed. There is the policy, provision for mental health in Kenya, in Africa, is critical. And of course, there is the spiritual and the financial. Spiritual comes in when somebody goes to their pastor and asks, oh, you know, I am going through a cancer journey, I would want prayers. And they're told, we will heal this thing. Regrettably, some people stop the conventional treatment because pastor said we will pray and heal. And regrettably, when you stop a cancer treatment, the effects are dire as well. And so even as we do the spiritual mentoring, as we do the spiritual psychosocial support, it's important that somebody continues with the conventional treatment so that we don't have lapses in the treatment and lapses in the disease control and management. Financial. It's one of the pillars that we're still climbing. And I'll say this, it affects mental wellness as well, because there is no way somebody will be dealing with a cancer treatment and worrying about where is my next meal coming from, and they are expected to be well. So we need to think holistic approach to cancer control, as opposed to just singular, this person is not well, let's treat the disease. Let's treat the whole person. That's what I have.
That's very correct. Yeah, Benda, that's true. One thing that we really need to remember that I'm hearing you is that a person is a whole person.
Yes.
And when you have cancer in one of your organs, we have 7 systems in the body. There's still a lot of you that is well, a lot of you that is okay. But I know that when you hear the word cancer, you just immediately think all of you is over. But I'm really grateful that you're very holistic about the approach. And you've raised something that is very interesting, the spiritual aspect. And I want to come back to Edith and ask you, Edith, two questions. Number one, did you find yourself in a situation where people would say the wrong things to you, like what Benda is saying, like they would judge you, or even though you're trying to live, then to them it's like you've already died because you have the cancer? That's the first thing. And number two, when did you share it with maybe a pastor, and how was your approach? There's an issue, there's sometimes a conflict between faith and medicine, So what Benda is saying, that some people say they're pastor, then they're told not to take the medicine. But for you, I'm finding that you have a very good balance of spiritual and medical. So tell us also about that.
Okay, I can remember one relative. She said that it's better to have HIV than to have cancer. So you can imagine the trauma I had. And this is somebody who you think she's your relative. But she went on and said, it's better to have HIV and AIDS than to have cancer. So most cases, you see, even your relatives, your close family members, sometimes they can say something that can make you to go even to die.
Yeah.
And also about my faith and my, I shared with my pastor that thing, and he told me that taking medicine is faith. Believing the word of God is faith. Now it's your choice to choose where you want to go. Because going to church, it's faith. Taking medicine, it's faith. Both of them are 2 types of faith. So you can imagine, you can choose what you want. He told me that I won't tell you to not take the medicine. That's one way of faith. And I won't tell you that come to church, we pray, and you leave the medicine. So for me, he guided me that I should take the medicine. Yeah.
I like that because it's actually correct. Because you see, when you have cancer, what you want is to be healed of it. You want your life to continue. You don't want your life to end. So even as you're taking the medication, there is faith in that you want the medicine to help you so that you can overcome. So I really like that angle that your pastor gave you, because it is so powerful. And I also like the other angle that you also took, which is, let me accept this cancer, let me embrace it, let me love it, and let me be able to overcome it. So I think that you also got a very holistic support as you were dealing with this, and I'm so grateful for you. Another thing that I want to ask is, have you, now that it's something you've already overcome, do you find yourself mentoring other people who have just received the news, and are you able to be a pillar of strength to them?
Yeah.
Or is it something you want to totally forget? You don't even want to meet anyone with cancer? You want to move on?
I do mentor them because we have a clinic in Nairobi Hospital, and before Corona I used to meet, and most of the time I would share with them. So even here in Nyeri, I used to go door to door with those who have that kind of a situation. Not only leukemia, but also all the types of cancer. I normally tell them that cancer is not death sentence. So even today, I do mentor people do that. Yeah.
Awesome. So this is also something very nice, because you've turned something negative into something positive. In fact, now that you have survived it, you're even encouraging other people to. And in a way, you're also sort of like a health advocate, because Benda, you have not gone through cancer, but you have been affected by cancer in so many ways, and you are inspiring a lot of people to be able to to deal with it. So tell us a little bit, as we come to close, Benda, tell us a little bit about the survival rates. Like, do we have any statistics that we can talk about?
You know, I'm glad you've asked that question. I'm glad. We are in Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Many people don't know this, that if you're diagnosed with breast cancer in the US, in Canada, in Australia, in New Zealand, in Norway, in the Western countries, to be specific, you have a 90% chance of surviving beyond the 5-year survival rate for breast cancer. If you're born and diagnosed in the African continent, sub-Saharan Africa, the regrettable bit is that reduces to 40% survival rate for 5 years and above.
Huge difference.
Why is this? There are a number of reasons. The first one is the stage at which the disease is diagnosed. Majority of our patients present with stage 3, stage 4 disease staging. And yet, this is the cost of treatment, the technologies for treatment, the expense that is going to cost it, the technologies required. It's going to be totally different from when you're discovered at stage 0 or stage 1. And also the chances of recovery, the chances of survivorship requires more for the upper stages than the lower stages. So downgrading the cancer diagnosis is very important. The second thing is the health systems. You can imagine someone diagnosed in Kisumu, let's even take it to Kisumu, or Turkana, and they have to come to seek treatment in Nairobi. The barriers are phenomenal. And therefore, the chances of survival for this person is very low, because even after treatment, if they have to come for clinics to Nairobi, Edith is coming from Nyeri, it's what, 2 hours drive, one and a half hours drive to Nairobi. If someone is coming from Turkana, they have to plan for a full week to come to Nairobi, go to the hospital, wait, go back. It's just phenomenal. So the health systems aspect. The other one is the policy on cancer control and management. In the Western countries, they have majority of the cancers is entrenched in the healthcare system. So management, cancer control, awareness, education. For example, a woman in the UK at the age of 21, the moment she hits the age of 21, gets a reminder, you are supposed to come for your first pap smear. Okay? Here, there are women who go through life without a single screening. And yet it could make all the difference between diagnosis, early diagnosis for cervical cancer, or no diagnosis at all, and late stage diagnosis. So that's yet another issue. And lastly, and I was speaking into this when you asked the question on cost, we have to remember early detection saves lives, but it's about awareness. Before we judge communities that they are not aware, therefore they are ignorant, let's think. Kenya has a 78% literacy rate and a 16% cancer screening for cervical cancer. Is it that these people who are so well educated at 78% don't want to be screened for a disease that's easily treatable if discovered early? No, it's the lack of awareness, and therefore our systems, our structures have to give opportunities for people to know about signs and symptoms at the community level, for people to know about early detection at the community level, so that there is a higher suspicion of disease and a higher awareness, so that if I feel a bloated stomach, for example, I should be thinking that could also be ovarian cancer. I should not wait if I'm bloated for so long until a time when my body is the one screaming at me. It gave me the sign early, let me go early. So awareness, education at the community level, without a doubt, should be the first port of call in investment, even as we're looking at systemic, addressing the other policy issues. Awareness and education cannot be overemphasized.
Thank you so much, Brenda. You have wrapped it up so well. And thank you for joining us. Thank you, Edith, for coming out to share your story. You have been such a a pillar of strength. And I just want to basically wrap up the show because time is up. There's never enough time to talk about this. But ladies, keep up with the good work that you are doing. It's making a difference. And we need more and more people like you in order to be able to overcome this, and so that we can up those rates, those cancer survivorship rates. They need to go up. The difference is quite much. So thank you, viewer. I know this has been beneficial to you, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.
Yeah. Bye now. Thanks.